Hey there, it's Kat and this is Brews and Reviews. So first I want to say I'm sick, so if I sound really weird and I look really haggard, it's because I'm sick. I'm going to try and edit out all bits of me coughing and slightly dying, but you know, if some of that makes it in, I'm really sorry. Anyway, we're here for a wrap up, so let's just get straight into the books that I read in August. So the first book that I read in August was The Discipline by Marina Anderson. And if you have watched the Complaints with Cat video that I posted on this book, you will know how much I hated it. I gave this 1 out of 5 stars. I would have given it like minus 5,000 out of 5 stars if I could possibly have done that. It was the worst. There was no consent in this book, and it really, really bugged me. It was like, not just the people who were involved in the erotic acts that take place in this book. The people who were just like random passers-by, they did not consent to be involved in any of these things. Everything was so unbelievable and weird, and people just did things at it that did with the worst people ever. Just go and watch the Complaints with Cat video if you want to hear my thoughts on this. It was about a woman who was like a Brazilian nun, and then she left the nunnery because some guy was like, it's corrupt, and then she went back to England, and then he followed her there, and then they did sexy business with a bunch of other random people. And they were all morally questionable. And I'll just leave it at that. Watch the Complaints with Cat video. This book sucked. I hated it. The next 2 books that I read I'm going to talk about at the same time because they're part of the same series. I actually managed to finish a series. Is anybody else impressed? Because I'm impressed, because it doesn't happen that often. So the next books that I read were World After and End of Days by Susan E. This is the second and the third book in the Penguin and the End of Days trilogy. And I really liked them. Like, I can't stop thinking about them. I didn't kind of expect to like it as much as I did, but I really did. So a brief synopsis of the first book would be that there's an apocalypse of the angel type variety, and, you know, the angels are not very nice. They're kind of dicks. And you follow Penryn as she tries to reclaim her sister who's been abducted by the angels, and she sort of meets this wingless angel that she goes on a quest with. Now, it does have, like, some things that are very early, like, 2010s, like, YA romance sort of things. It does have that, but it also has, like, some really gory things that I really enjoyed. Like, there's a scene on Alcatraz in this book that I was like, I would like to see that in a horror movie. I could really clearly picture it. And there's just some great things, and I really liked how it ended. Yeah, I just really liked it. There's not much I can say about this. I didn't think that I was going to really, like, end up enjoying this series and thinking, yeah, I could definitely see myself rereading it, but I kind of already want to reread it, so it definitely did a good job. I enjoyed both of these. I think I give this one 4 stars and this one 5 stars, because I just really liked how it wrapped up. But yeah, good times. So next up I read The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg. This book is about a theme park that's kind of like Disney World, where all the princesses in it are animatronics. And one of the animatronics kills someone, and it's sort of her trial and bits before and a bit afterwards, and how sentient these robots are, and it just, yeah, it's an interesting debate. I always like books that sort of question how human robots are, if that makes any sense. I'm not really, my brain is not engaging right now, but like, I always like that debate, even though it makes me kind of sad. But this book was pretty interesting. I think I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I just kind of wish it had gone a bit further, and like, people had been less cruel to like these princesses, because damn. The next 2 books I'm going to talk about at the same time because they're part of the same series. So the first is The Sunken Mole, and the second is The Hanged Man by Katie Edwards. So The Sunken Mole is a short novella that takes place between The Last Sun and The Hanged Man. And The Hanged Man is the direct sequel. So I've been reading this series with Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, and honestly, we're both loving it. They're so good. Oh god, these books are so good. I, like, the excitement, right? You know when you find one of those series and you think, yeah, no, I really enjoyed that. That was so good. And then you can't stop thinking about it at all. And you just want to know so much more about the world. Well, this series. This has become one of my favourite series just like ever. And if you haven't had a thought of picking up The Last Sun, then please fucking do, because it's so good. So basically, The Last Sun is set in a world where Atlanteans are real, and there's like a god system which is kind of based on the tarot cards. So you've got Rune, who is the main character. He is Lord Sun, based on like the Sun tarot card. And then you've got various other tarot card, like, god type people, and they're sort of mixed into our world, and there's like all sorts of magical creatures. So in the first book they go after Lady Justice's son because they're kind of like detectives, like magical detectives. And listen, it's so much more interesting than I'm making it sound. My little confused brain is not doing any justice to this. Now I will say that there are some dark shit in this. Like, something very traumatic happens to Rune in his past and he has PTSD for it. There is a super cute MLM relationship in this, and the banter between all of these characters is just some of my favourite banter I've ever read. Considering how dark some of the things get in these books, the banter had me literally laughing out loud. So please pick this series up, and just look at trigger warnings before you do though, just in case, because there's quite a few nasty things that happen in these, but very, very good books. The next book that I read was Unnatural Exposure by Patricia Cornwell. This is the next book in the Case Carpetta series. So I've been looking forward to reading this one for quite a while because I read something off the blurb and I was like, ooh, that sounds really interesting. Something for the chief medical examiner to go and sort of tussle with. That sounds really interesting. And the blurb lied to me. Now, I'm not mad because I did really enjoy this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. But the thing that the blurb mentioned didn't happen till, I'm gonna say, halfway through the book. And I hate when books do that. It's so annoying. Because I feel like I would have been thinking really differently about the things that had happened before that point, and then it was like, bam, we're changing tack and doing this different thing. So that's my brief, like, little non-spoilery section for this. I'm just gonna hold my hand up. If you want to read this book, and you don't want the spoiler that the blurb gives, then just wait till I put my hand down and I'll be talking about something else. So, this book has somebody threatening to release smallpox on places, right? Now, as you might know, we are currently in a time where we are having to quarantine and be in lockdown because of, you know, viruses and things like that. And it really annoyed me because the main character in this was like exposed to smallpox, or she thought she was, and then she was like, I don't want to be quarantined. She was quarantined for like 3 days, and then she flew all around, and I'm like, my god, you're supposed to be the chief medical examiner. Like, what are you doing? Like, we're all here like sat in our houses for like months on end, and she's like, I can't sit in this room for 3 days. I was like, Kay. Yeah, that was my only gripe, because I usually find Kay a really intelligent character, but it just really bothered me that she did that, because I was like, really not what you would do, especially if you were the chief medical examiner. No. Okay, so yeah, spoilers. Anyway, I enjoyed this one. Yeah, it was a good book, aside from that thing that I just mentioned. So the next 3 books that I read after that were graphic novels. They were part 1, 2, and 3 of The Promise, which is an Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel. So I actually found somewhere to read those online, and I'm like, okay, because I've been loving some Avatar. It's, you know, it's a good time. So these graphic novels basically take place straight after the end of Avatar: The Last Airbender series, and it's about the Fire Nation colonies that are in the Earth Kingdom, and is it right that the people who live there should now not live there? And sort of debates. Personally, I thought that these were okay. I gave them all 3 stars because they were just very... It felt very middle grade. It felt like we were having a moral debate that we'd already had, and people were making decisions that I didn't feel like that they would make because they had actually grown past this. The series had made them grow past the decisions that they were having to make in this one. So it just felt like someone was trying to do a graphic novel, and then they were like, well, we'll start off with something simple, and that's what I got out of it. I still liked seeing the characters. It was very juvenile to me, which, I mean, I know Avatar's meant to be like middle grade and they're very young characters, but I feel like it's way more mature than these graphic novels are. So I'm going to keep reading different graphic novels that are in the series and see if they get any better. So the next book that I picked up was Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert, and I loved this book. It was so good. This is a contemporary romance book and I utterly adored it. So you follow Chloe Brown, who lives with fibromyalgia. As she moves into her own apartment, she's trying to start new things out. She's trying to live a life while having a chronic illness. And there's a handyman that she sort of hates at first because they keep having little instances where they talk to each other and they're like, don't like you, sort of thing. It's enemies to lovers. It's very cute. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed their little banters. I just really liked the level of understanding that you got from the different characters. Yes, they had like their miscommunications, which I usually hate, but I didn't mind in this because the characters sort of came around and were more mature about the things that they were doing, which I really enjoy in a book. I like some maturity in the character. I can't speak on the chronic illness representation as I don't have a chronic illness myself, but what I can say is I liked how the two characters communicated about it. Next up I read 'Twas the Night Shift Before Christmas by Adam Kay. Yes, this is a weird time of year to read it. The reason I did it is because it was the last book that I needed to read to fulfill a challenge. The If You've Got It, Read It challenge from Spinebreakers. It was a non-fiction book, and look how small it is. I was like, listen, I can read a non-fiction book if it's this small, because I don't like non-fiction very much, so you know, I was like, let's just get it done, and then I finished the challenge, so that's why I read it. This was really good. It was really funny. There were bits that were quite sad. I only gave it 3 stars because I actually saw him on his tour for this book, and basically I'd heard most of this book before, so I wasn't really getting anything new out of it, so it was only 3 stars for me. But if you do ever get to see Adam Kay live on a book tour, it's so worth it. He's incredibly funny. And last but not least, I read Clapboard New Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This book is about a father that dies in a plane crash, and he has 2 daughters that don't know about each other up until the point when he dies. And honestly, this book is an exploration of grief. It's very prominent, and how different people deal with grief is a very interesting way to see. Culture is very prevalent, and I really enjoyed it. There are some trigger warnings for this one as well. Obviously grief, plane crashes, there is a sexual assault that happens at one point in the book. So yeah, those are worth looking up. So that's it. Those are the books that I read in August. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!